Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Tiny Boy Trying to Grow, TVT2G, and I'm here with a familiar character of the stream. That's Raleigh. Hello, Raleigh.
Hey guys.
What's your Twitch name, Raleigh?
A_myriad.
That's right. He's a mod. So, start off with the questions just to get to know our guest here. What do you do for work, Raleigh?
I am a software engineer.
Wow, that sounds smart.
I'm not that smart.
How did we meet?
We met in college
Doing what?
in Campus Crusade for Christ, now called the Crew. I met you beforehand, but we played in a band together.
I don't think we met before the band.
We met during spring or fall retreat one time.
But I remember I had already either practiced with the band or been
No.
asking about joining the band by then.
Maybe you were talking to somebody else about it, but
I mostly talked
I
to
remember I
Josh,
met
yeah.
you before we ever did practice together. Maybe we didn't talk, but I met
No,
you before.
because I remember because the first time we did practice together, you were across that garage that you used to practice in? That dude's garage?
Yes, yeah. Dan
You-
Champion, which is an awesome last name.
I didn't know his name. I only practiced there once with you guys, I think.
He's a good
But I
dude.
remember you were across the garage, and I was like, that guy seemed cold to me.
Probably was.
So you didn't care about me being there.
It's quite possible.
You didn't care one way or the other. So I remember we didn't really meet before I started playing in the band. That's my point.
Okay.
So how long have we known each other for?
What's it been, like 4 or 5 years now?
What year was that?
Like 2013?
I think it was 2012.
Was it?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years sounds about right. So let's just jump right in. Let's not waste any time here.
I feel like
We've
I'm
already
on, like,
wasted enough
NPR.
time. NPR?
Yeah. National Public Radio.
Why? I know what that
'Cause
is.
we're doing interviews.
I mean, it's a podcast, dude. There's questions. These aren't the rest of the questions I'll be answering with you, so if that makes you feel better.
Okay, it does.
Okay. Question number 1 is what is your take on the legalization of marijuana?
I believe it should be legalized.
Just like fully, not only the
Yes.
medical field?
Certainly in the medical field because it's proven that it's beneficial medically.
Uh-huh.
But with non-violent offenders shouldn't be in jail because they smoked weed or had a bunch of weed on them.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, it's just a waste of time and money.
I kind of agree. I don't know if I have I don't really have a super strong opinion on it because I've never smoked it and have no interest in smoking it. But I kind of don't see the massive harm in it. You know, it's not like people get violent when they're high. I don't think, at least.
Well, I have a brother who ended up in jail for like 24 hours because he had some weed.
Really?
He lived in a house near Pontiac,
Okay.
and they rented out a room on Craigslist to somebody else. Like, it was just because they needed to fill an extra room. And this guy apparently sold weed at the house, and he got swatted.
No way.
Yeah. Like, they were apparently camping at his house. They didn't even know my brother lived there. And he woke up with a gun to his head, screaming that they're going to shoot his dog because this dude was selling a bunch of weed out of the house.
So the dude that they sold the room to was selling weed.
Yeah. And my brother had, a little bit on him or something, or in his room.
So he's not completely innocent.
No.
Did they know he had weed, or that they just don't know he was selling
they
it?
didn't. They didn't even know he lived in the house. Or my brother, at least. The guy that sold the weed, they obviously knew that he lived in the house, but...
Wait, I'm confused now by this story.
So, the dude that they rented the room to...
Your brother lived there, and he had a roommate or something?
Yes,
And him and his
the
roommate
roommate was
decided-
selling weed, not my brother.
So not the guy that you're renting the room to.
No, my brother was renting a room to some guy that was selling marijuana.
So your brother didn't have a roommate, and then he started renting the
There were
room
like
out.
5 people in the house, and they rented another room to somebody else.
So this new person
The new person.
is who had the weed.
Yes. Well, he was selling it.
Okay, that's fine.
So I think it's
still don't
stupid.
fully
So my brother
follow
had to get lawyers and spend a bunch of money.
it.
And
Sure,
A lot of stupid stuff.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
They
That's
should
why I
have
think it should be
should
legalized.
have done a background check on him when they offered
What does
him
that
the
have to
room.
do with anything?
I don't know. Then you need to know if he's going to be trouble or not. That's general.
Yeah, but that's not how the court system works.
I'm not saying about the courts. I'm saying before you rent someone a room that is going to live in the same building as you.
Maybe. That
I don't
sounds like a
know.
lot of work.
I am slow to trust people. That's all, especially strangers. I'm not saying that means I'm mean to them, because I don't think you should be mean to strangers.
Sure.
But yeah, I would be like hesitant to let someone into my house.
Oh, depends, I guess. I don't think I'd be that worried about it.
Fair enough. Keeping it on a political sphere.
Sphere, sure.
What was the other word I was trying to do?
I don't know.
Opinions/thoughts on second parenthesis right to bear arms parenthesis, and how could it be affected with each president? So opinions on Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms, and how could it be affected with each president?
I have a shotgun in this very apartment right now.
Do you really?
I do. It's under my bed.
I didn't know
and
that.
I would like to buy a pistol. So
how did you get a shotgun but not a pistol?
My uncle gave me a shotgun.
Are you legally allowed to have that shotgun?
You don't need anything to have a gun. You need permits to carry it. You can go out and buy a gun today.
Really?
Yeah, you just need like a background check.
I didn't know that.
You need a permit for like concealed carry.
Right.
But yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as long as like if you get pulled over, as long as it's in like a locked compartment and not like in the vehicle, so it's like in your trunk. Then you're good to carry whatever you have, really.
So you could put that shotgun in your trunk and drive around with it. And
I have several times.
Really?
Yeah, to go up north and go like skeet shooting. Super fun.
I was gonna say when you drive through the ghetto, or I mean you live downtown.
I have. It's like a skeet shooting specific shotgun. My uncle is like a big outdoorsy guy, and my grandpa was too. So when my grandpa passed, he gave him all his guns, and apparently my uncle like inherited a bunch of guns from other people. So he has like, I think he said he had like 25 shotguns or something.
What does it mean to inherit a bunch of guns from other people?
People gave them to him.
Okay.
So
that's
he gave me one for my birthday last year.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. I thought you had to actually have like a permit just to own one.
They do like background checks. I could be wrong, but I know you certainly don't for guns that you can like hunt with. Like maybe a pistol, you might need one, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I can go out and buy a pistol. That sounds worse.
Almost. Because then you can have like a more powerful gun? Question mark?
I don't think.
Right?
I'm pretty sure that I could just go out and buy a pistol today.
That's weird.
They do like background checks, but
how much is like a gun?
Nothing will come back on my background check.
Well, yeah. How much is a gun if you were to walk it, like if you were to do what you just said, to walk out and buy a gun, how much would it be?
Depends.
You know?
The pistol that I want to buy is like $450 to $600 in that range.
That's cheaper than I thought.
Yeah. It's a 9mm.
Sick, dude.
Dude,
you can make memes with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go around just walking around with it, just pointing at people.
I'm not saying you make memes in real life. I'm saying you owning it, you can make memes on that.
I guess
matter.
So. Guns aren't a joking matter, Chris.
I agree, but rap songs make it seem like it.
Do they?
Kinda, yeah.
Well, let's talk about killing people.
Well, it's
not really a joke.
I don't like making light of situations like that.
It's fair.
It's not. Anyway. It's like Grandma and I think Jerome was there too. I forget who was there the other day. They were showing me horrorcore, which is a genre of hip hop or rap.
It sounds terrible.
Is bad. I hated it. It was basically rap over like beats that kind of sounded like horror music, like eerie beats, and then they also talked about like horror subjects. It was like both. So they talked about like killing people and like worshiping the devil and stuff. Maybe not worshiping the devil. They talked about like demons and stuff.
I'm glad that I didn't
it was
listen
bad.
To that.
I did not like it at all.
Huh. I like rap though. It's just not horrorcore apparently. Horrorcore.
I like core after music genres.
Because
anyway,
you're a hardcore screamer.
Because there's so many that already have it, like metalcore, post-hardcore. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. I didn't answer the question though. Oh, you didn't answer the second part though. How could it be affected with each president?
I really don't know.
You don't know?
Like,
you don't know
it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. Enough people would freak out about it that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think
I think there should be better restrictions than like who can buy it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't think anyone should really have a problem with like a couple day waiting period buying something. I don't see why that's even an issue.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. So I don't think presidents are really gonna do anything about it.
Yeah, I think kind of in a similar way. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Second Amendment itself. Like people say, just ban. Like it is an argument that some make to like ban all guns. I'm not on that train. But I do think especially, having this conversation, because I've never even like looked into what it takes to buy a gun. I just know it's not that hard, but it sounds incredibly easy based on what you were just saying.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem. So I would agree with better, like more intensive scrutiny on who can buy it. But as far as the guns themselves, I don't necessarily have a problem with most responsible, law-abiding citizens owning one.
Yeah.
And again, how much it can be affected by each president, I don't know if I have a hard opinion on that as well. I don't think the president he can't sign an executive order just getting rid of the Second Amendment. I don't think.
No. Well, it'd be an amendment to the Constitution, so.
It would have to go through Congress?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Right. So I don't think the president can necessarily do anything, or other than maybe veto it if it got through Congress, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as if just we got one president that said we should ban all guns, I don't think
with
they
our
could do
current
anything.
society, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's enough people on either side, I guess, but especially on like the gun owning side to make it not go away anytime soon. All right. What is your dream career, and what, if any, barriers do you have in place stopping you from taking your first steps towards your goal? Is there anything realistically different you could do to set forth a plan in progressing towards it? So what is your dream career, first of all?
I don't know if I really have one, to be honest. Like, I'm not the type of dude that is crazy about work. Like, a lot of people's careers like define them. Like, I'm a salesman or I'm an engineer, and that's like who I am. I'm not really like that guy. So I like go into work and I'm okay with my work. So I'm not like super happy or super sad. Like, I don't wake up pissed off that I'm going into work. So anything that I can just like, as long as I don't hate my job, like it's okay. I'd rather be happy, of course, but as long as it's okay and it allows me to enjoy my life outside of my job, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that's kind of where sorry, I feel like I had to burp. It's kind of where I'm at too. Like, my job is not great, but it's not terrible. It really just like lets me do what I want to do outside of work at the moment. It's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't know if I necessarily have one dream job. It's hard to like pin down just one, because I enjoy doing different things. I mean, I enjoy streaming, and I enjoy like making music and stuff like that, but I don't know if I would if I would pin down like I want to stream forever, I want to make music forever, because like if you're a musician, you have to like tour and stuff. There's a lot that goes into that kind of stuff that I don't like about it. Not that I wouldn't ever tour. That would be kind of cool experience, but I wouldn't want to do it forever.
Yeah. For the sake of the question, though.
For the sake of the question.
I think a couple things I'm super passionate about are cars. So being a race car driver. Well, being a mechanic doesn't really. Like, I'd like to learn how to work on cars and do like project cars, but I don't want to do that as my job.
Sure.
But like race car driver would be sick. That's like such a little kid thing to say, but like rally cars would be awesome. Is. But realistically, as you know, I'm super into craft beer, so opening a craft brewery or like a specialty coffee shop.
How likely are either of those to happen?
Coffee shop is much more likely than brewery.
Why?
Well, me and my brother talked about doing that once, but then he got like a real job.
Does your brother live in Pennsylvania or something?
This one lives in Indianapolis.
Okay. But neither of them live near here?
No. Yeah, well, he used to live in Detroit.
Okay.
So he used to live close by. Then he got a real job and moved off.
He didn't have a real job in Detroit?
Well, he got a more stable, like, better paying job.
Gotcha.
A long-term job, that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better way to say it.
So you're not likely to take steps towards that, though?
I thought about it for a while. It's kind of like a coffee shop would cost a lot of money to open, and I would rather not go into debt. So it's one of those things of like, if I find some really high paying jobs and put up a bunch of money and like have a bunch of money in my bank account, then I would seriously consider it.
What's the app that you're starting to do?
Oh yeah. It's kind of like this app called Untapped, which is a beer rating app. And it's for like rating coffee. So you can rate a coffee shop, then you can rate the specific coffee, because like there's like different varieties and
Uh-huh.
different types, and then you can also say like how you brewed it and give tasting notes, like what everything tasted like.
Okay.
So I'm just starting to plan it out right now. I haven't started actually writing it yet.
What have so for your job, do you work on an app when you code at your job?
I
or is
write
it-
web applications,
Okay.
so like websites basically.
Would something like your app that you're starting, where it's like programming, but something you enjoy programming more,
Mm-hmm.
be more like a dream job ish type
Sure.
thing?
I mean, anything that makes you happier, I don't see why you wouldn't
Sure.
want that. So, I mean, realistically, my dad has a really big company, or not a really big company, but he and my mom like run this company that does like consultation and sales. And maybe one day I'll help out with him. Not really
Gotcha.
sure.
So outside of work, you said work kind of we both kind of agreed that work is kind of just you get, you go to work and you do what you want to do outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff does your work allow you to do outside of work that
Well,
I don't know how to word
for
that
our
exactly.
age, I got lucky enough to get out of college and get like a career type job right away.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of friends that went and worked at like a restaurant or something, I make a significant amount more than them, which is nice. So I like can take vacations and got my own apartment and bought a car, and monetary wise, it lets me do most things that I would like to do.
Gotcha.
But like, and I don't work more than 40 hours a week. There's a lot of programmers that are like on startups and they have to work 60 hours a week and be miserable doing it. So I get to go home and spend an hour cooking or playing video games or hanging out with friends.
Gotcha.
So I have a bunch of time and money to actually use.
Sure. Yeah, for me, when I think of that, it's mostly like for a while, back at my last job, this was back like 2015, when I was playing a lot of Left 4 Dead 2, I was basically going to work at my last job and then coming home and streaming like 5 to 6 days a week. Like pretty much 6 days a week constantly. Like one day on the weekend I wouldn't. And that was like fun for a little bit, and that was like really enjoyable for a little bit, but then it started to get like really much of like way too much of a grind.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I slowed down on Twitch a little bit for a while, was because it started to feel more like a job than it was like enjoyable. But it's gone back to being enjoyable. I really do like it a lot. But I'm hesitant to be like, I wish I was a full-time streamer, because I mean over the summer I did do that, and it started to also be a grind again. So I don't know, I spend a lot of time like outside of work putting into stuff I want to do, which is, I mean, I still stream a lot and I want to grow that, obviously. How big it grows, I'm really open to whatever. Like if it grew big enough to where it made me go full-time again, I'd be totally fine with that. But if it doesn't, I'm fine with it too.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you're a full-time streamer, but it's very different than the full-time streamers that make like a ton of money doing it. So like, you're grinding out and you don't necessarily see big changes. Because you're grinding out in a smaller channel, so you're not like making $100,000 like some of these dudes are, and you're not getting like an extra 20 people a day in chat or whatever. So it's always harder to do something that slowly changes and you don't get a ton out of it, besides like enjoying the company of people that are in there, which I know you do.
Right. I mean, that's what's fun about it.
Right. But it certainly would be more fun if you got more viewers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
it would make it easier. Like the grind would be easier because you're seeing more rewards from it.
Right. It's definitely more fun to be. Not that streaming's not fun when no one's watching. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm playing Counter-Strike with friends and no one's watching, I'm still having an okay time because I'm playing Counter-Strike with friends. Right. But if I'm just sitting there playing like Killer on Dead by Daylight by myself
for
and
no
one
like
talking
20th
in chat
game in a row?
it can get real bad, like real annoying.
Yeah, I believe that.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, my point is, I don't know if I have like a one dream job, but I've really just been focusing on doing things that I enjoy more outside of work, where like streaming and doing music stuff.
Sure.
Like the band that I joined at the beginning, like early January, is the first time I've been in like a real band. I've always like made music on the side and stuff, but as far as like playing shows and stuff, this will actually lead to that. So that's been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. And I'm really glad that I took that step. So that's really what I've been doing, is just like focusing on stuff that I want to do. And if one of those things ends up progressing into something else, then fine. Like, I'm totally down with that. But as far as like, this is my dream job, I wish I could get this right now or do this, I don't know if I have that. But I think you should always be, the point I was trying to make earlier with when I was just streaming, it ended up being like that was my whole life. It was just like work and then I stream, and that was pretty much it. And it kind of put me like, I ended up not enjoying that very much. After a little bit, I started to get pretty down about that, because I was like, I had nothing else in my life, and my stream's not even very big. So like, it's not like a big deal.
I think that's what people in our society don't do very well. We don't deal with balance well.
Yeah, and I think my point was, I think you should always like do things that you enjoy doing, and if streaming is what you enjoy doing, then do it a lot. But like, yeah, make sure you have a balance there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep yourself in like a good mental spot for like a long time. And as long as you're taking steps towards things that you like to do, regardless of whether or not it works out into your dream job, I think you'll be satisfied regardless, as long as you're doing stuff that you want to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else to add?
I don't know. I could probably go on about that subject for a while, but I'll probably stop.
What else would you talk about?
I don't know. The whole like work-life balance. I don't think people do a good job on it.
I agree. Why don't you think people do a good job on it?
Well, our society's like all about who can make the most money and like who can do this the best, and like you have to be the best instead of just being satisfied doing like what you enjoy. Like, I enjoy cooking, so I'll spend like an hour cooking a dinner for myself. And people would be like, "Oh, well, that sucks. Like, your food's bad, but I enjoy doing it." So
I don't enjoy cooking. I'm the opposite.
And people turn that into like competitions too. Like, who can be the best at a specific thing? And, oh, you're terrible at this because I'm better than you. So why even talk to you about it?
It's hard to not compare yourself to others in society in general. Like, it's so hard. Because, I mean, I was just telling Tyler about this yesterday. I was texting Tyler, and I was talking. The thing about Tyler is he's been at this job that I used to be at for a while now. He started like this later in the month when I started, which was March 2015. So he's been there since then. And he doesn't enjoy it very much. And he has said in the past that he's just going to be there for 1 year and then he's going to leave. And a year passed, and he's like, okay, I'll be here for 2 years and then I can do what I want to do or whatever. And then 2 years will be passing this month. And he's like, well, if I can ride it out until they lose their contract, which will probably be sometime in the near future, then it'll be fine. Or if, and then he said, well, just another year. And then he said another 9 months. Like, he's very like slow to do what he wants to do. And really my point to him has always just been like, look, I'm not saying you have to quit tomorrow. I just want you to actually take steps towards doing something that you want to do. Like, it's really easy to get stuck in the rut or the mundane like work. I just feel like going to work and then being like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything else, and like, oh, go to work, I just want to watch TV, like stuff like that, where I know it can be like rough sometimes to actually go do what you want to do after you go to work, but it's very worth it. And as long as you're somewhat taking steps towards that, you're gonna be fine. And another point I wanted to make was, my point to him was too, because he eventually was like, yeah, I am taking steps, it's just a slow process. And I was like, dude, I understand. Like, I've been streaming for like 4.5 years, since like 2012. I streamed for nobody for 2 years. No one really knows that. But like, and then, you see someone like Tofu, who is a Dead by Daylight streamer, used to be a Left 4 Dead 2 player, who made his account and basically got partnered in like under a year.
Yeah.
Like even like less than 6 months or something like that. It was really fast when he switched to Dead by Daylight. So like, it can be hard watching other people. Like, obviously I'm not upset at Tofu or anything. Like, he's a really good streamer. He deserves that. But like, it can be hard watching other people do really well, and it's hard to not compare yourself to that and be like, well, if I didn't get famous in 6 months like Tofu, then maybe I should just stop, or, maybe I'm a bad streamer, et cetera, et cetera. It can be really easy to get into that mindset.
Yeah, I think it's the whole like stagnation thing. Like, is your life becoming stagnant? Like, are you progressing in some area? Like, regardless of what it is, you enjoying progressing? Are you doing something different? I think that's what we don't do very well.
Yeah. And when I was like, yeah, no, I totally agree. That's kind of, when I think about it, that's kind of similar to when I was at that job before I left, or before I got laid off, technically. I was really really hating it. Like I really didn't like it at all. And
Right.
like doing that and then streaming just felt like I was working two jobs, and like I was doing the same thing for too long, and it started to feel way too much like a grind. And then when got laid off and I started streaming full time, at first it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And then as that summer progressed towards like August, like once August hit and stuff, I started to get like really not bored, but just like the grind started wearing on me, you know what I mean? And it started to feel less and less enjoyable. And then when I started the job I'm at now, it was a really good change of pace. It was a huge blessing to like, switch my schedule that much. And, at first I really enjoyed it. And I'm not at the point right now where I am starting to hate it, but I feel like that might happen at some point if something doesn't change in the near future.
That's why I was thinking about like moving. Like we talked about that a little bit. I was talking about moving away from the city that I live in, and I don't know. I just felt like my entire life and my job and everything was just super stagnant. Like I was doing the same thing with the same people, and nothing was really changing.
Well, that's part of it too. I mean, obviously, I told you the big reason I don't want to move away is because of my friends that I have in the area that I live, and a lot of those friends I've had for a really long time, like since high school. But like I don't think it's there. Like I'm not bored of my friends. Like I'm not.
I'm not saying that either.
It's not like my friends are. That's not an area of my life that I've ever really become like, oh, I wish I had new friends.
I think
like
we just have such a different perspective because I moved around so much when I was younger.
Yeah, I
that,
never
like,
did.
It doesn't worry me to go out and make other friends.
I mean, it's not really as much worry as it's just like I don't feel like starting from scratch. I'd rather I really like the friends that I have, and I don't have a reason necessarily to go somewhere else and move and start over.
Yeah. Well, my move wouldn't be to get away from friends.
I'm not saying you'd be moving because of them. I'm just saying like if I had the choice between like being at the job I'm at now for like let's say $13 an hour and being near my friends, or if I could move to like Grand Rapids for a job like that's 14 or 15 an hour, I'd still probably take
not
the
a very
13.
significant pay raise.
I'm just trying to make it like
I know
some
what you mean.
sort of reason I would move. You know what I mean? Like my friends are a very high reason I would stay there.
My thing is like, what if there's something better?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like, what if you met your future wife when you moved? I don't know.
What if I enjoy living in a different city more?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do whatever you got to do, I guess is the point of this. Just don't become stagnant. And if you're unhappy being stagnant, then it's 100% your choice to remain stagnant or make a change. That's the big thing that people don't really understand is that
Sure.
like, oh, my life sucks. Okay, then it's up to you,
Do
though.
something about it.
Yeah, it's up to you to make it not suck. It's not up to anybody else.
Right.
You have to do that. You have to, like, physically, consciously choose to not make it suck. So, like, when it hit me that, like, oh, my life is just work and streaming, eventually I was just like, oh, I actually have to do something else
Then you got
to
a
do
different
something
job
else.
and joined a band.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Then
Two
I was
things that
like,
you
let's
did
try
to
and enjoy a band.
not
Okay,
be
I did it.
stagnant.
And then
Yeah.
exactly. It eventually just hit me like, oh, it's up to me to not make my life suck.
No one else is going to do it.
Exactly. Like, that's the point. Do what you want to do, but it's up to you. All right. Next question. What do you think the value of video games is to people / society in general? What positives do they bring? Let's start that question by what is your history in video games? When did you start playing? What are some noteworthy things you've done in video games?
Noteworthy things that I don't think I've ever done anything
You played
noteworthy.
TF2 competitively for a little bit, didn't you?
I almost joined an open team, but I didn't. I pugged a lot.
Team.
Well, if some people ask me to join and they're like, all right, we're going to practice Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I was like, I'm not going to blow off my friends to practice Team Fortress 2 on a Friday night, dude. And they're like, all right, well, you can't join then. I was like,
right.
okay, that's fine.
I hear that.
Because my roommate sophomore year was a invite level TF2 player.
Okay.
So he's the one that kind of like taught me how to play and made it fun. I've never done anything noteworthy in video games.
For him.
I played like a bunch of PS2 when I was younger. I played Unreal Tournament 2005.
Okay.
And I played a lot of Counter-Strike.
Okay.
But I've never competed.
Gotcha. How old were you when you started like getting into video games in general?
College, really.
Really? You
Yeah.
said you played PS2 when you were younger, but you wouldn't consider yourself
no.
into video games at that point?
Well,
You're just any kid
would
that
go,
enjoys video
yeah,
games.
I'd go play outside, and then when I didn't play outside and it was raining out, I'd play on the PS2.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, my childhood was similar. I started playing PC games when I was 12. When did you start playing PC games? College?
Yeah, really.
Huh.
On my
Must
MacBook
be why
Pro
I'm
freshman year, dude.
that must be why I'm so much better than you.
Yeah,
Got all these
probably.
FPS games.
It's fine. I don't need to
Uh,
be the best.
I remember when I was better than you at Counter-Strike.
You were much better than me at Counter-Strike.
And now you're better than me. It's not fair.
Because you were the first couple competitive games I ever played with. We played
Really?
on Office. And I got like 2 kills a game, and we'd still win.
Yeah, I remember because I remember we were I remember there was one time I was hanging out with like Bryce and Nick or something, which they'll both be on the next episode of the podcast, by the way. Raleigh knows both of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about how we had played Counter-Strike together, and I remember being like, "But I'm better than Raleigh at Counter-Strike." So I didn't want any misconceptions.
Gotta
I was
let him
but
know.
I'm better than Raleigh at Counter-Strike.
I don't know if you can say that anymore.
I can't say. I wouldn't say it anymore. Now I would say we're close, but Raleigh's
Pretty
probably better.
close. I just played
That's
more.
what I would say.
If you played as often as I did, we'd be.
How many hours do you have in the last 2 weeks? Let's see. I
I
can
don't
check right now. I think I have like, I don't know. I can check both. You have of
Scroll
Counter-Strike.
up.
Let's see. You have 28.7 in the last 2 weeks of Counter-Strike. I didn't know if all those were in Counter-Strike.
Plus my extra on the Smurf with you guys.
Oh, true. And I have on Counter-Strike 17.7. So you have about
Yeah.
10 more hours than me.
Probably.
That's like half a day in the last 2 weeks.
Dude, no
dude.
way.
Playing
And get a life,
CS.
Raleigh. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I was talking about I started playing PC games when I was 12. My first game was America's Army 2. And that game's sweet. I still enjoy that game a lot. But I was 12, and I still remember my first clan I joined. You had to be 14.
Oh
And
man.
I said
You
I was-
lied to
I
him?
said I was 14.
Oh, dude.
And I had like the highest voice ever. I can't believe they thought I was even
Hey
14.
guys,
It
I'm
was-
14.
I'm 14. I didn't have a speech impediment, but yeah, it was like a really high voice.
I did when I was younger.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't.
In like 5th grade.
Thank God.
I couldn't pronounce my name. Well, when I was super
Wally.
younger, I couldn't
Wally.
pronounce my name. Apparently, when I was like 5 or something, people would ask me what my name was, and I'd be like, "It's Wally," and my mom would sit there and start laughing because apparently I would get really upset. They're like, "Oh, your name's Wally?" It's like,
Like,
"No, it's Wally."
It's a good thing you
I
didn't
couldn't.
grow up.
I couldn't pronounce it right.
It's a good thing. No, it's
So my
fine.
mom would like laugh and walk over, and she'd be like, "Oh, his name is Raleigh."
I-
Like, oh, okay.
It's a good thing though that you didn't grow up like in today's era, because then they'd be like, "Oh, like Wally, like the movie."
Well, exactly. No, that's what they thought.
When did that come out? That wasn't out when you were in 5th
Well,
grade.
No, but people's names are like Wallace and stuff. So it's
Like
short.
Wally. They thought your name
Yeah.
was Wally, but they couldn't have related it to a movie, is what I'm saying. Like
Right.
Wally, like the movie. Anyway. Gosh. But yeah, and then I eventually actually turned 14, and that was fun. I was still playing America's Army. I have this thing where I play games for like a couple years or several years, and then I move on to another game where I'll play it for several years. Left 4 Dead 2 hasn't ended yet. Well, it did, and kind of
Yeah,
has
it
come
did.
back a little bit.
Eh.
Anyway, so I played America's Army from like basically ages 12 to 14. Then I played Counter-Strike Source from ages like 14 to like 16. Maybe 14 to like 17, because it was my senior year of high school is when I started playing Left 4 Dead 2. And that's when I got into that competitively, which was 2010. I played that competitively till 2012. And then 2012 to 14, I played a lot of like League of Legends and Counter-Strike, kind of intermittently. And then 2014, I played Left 4 Dead 2 again for another year or two. Now I play Dead by Daylight and Counter-Strike here and there. But what was the second part of the question? The fudging history of our video games wasn't even part of the question. I think I just went there. What do you think the value of video games is to people / society in general? And what are the what positives do they bring?
What? It's like every form of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
What? Other than that,
It's just
I don't
another
know.
form of
Some people
entertainment.
use it as a career. Some people make a lot of money doing it.
True.
But to actual society, it's a form of entertainment.
Do you buy into any of like the negative effects that people say it would bring? Like, obviously I don't think it makes people into murderers or whatever, but like people say that seeing violence a lot is bad, or exposing yourself to some of that stuff too much is bad.
To some extent, I don't know. It's I don't know. Being exposed to more things is something that our society is like. We're the first society to be exposed to whatever we want at any time with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we really know if that's causing issues or not. Because it takes, years to figure that out and do proper research on it.
I put this here?
Yeah.
Okay. It's more convenient.
Yeah, so I don't know. I doubt it. I don't feel like I'm a worse person because I've killed a lot of people in video games, and like I'd be okay with seeing somebody die because I've killed so many people in video games or whatever. But I could see how somebody less mentally stable dealing with that kind of stuff could be harmful. So
Yeah.
as a whole, probably not. But
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. I'm not on the boat of violence in video games is a huge problem. I think 99% of people playing video games understand the difference between this is a video game. I'm playing Counter-Strike. It's not okay to go shoot somebody in real life.
Or I'm
I
playing
think
Grand
that's
Theft Auto. I can't go steal a car.
right. Yeah, I think that is obvious. Just like most people listening to rap music would be okay. Like, hey, I can't go murder somebody, or I can't go have sex with whoever I want. I think there's stuff in movies are the same thing. There's stuff in movies, like, obviously I can't do that. Like, there's things in any form of entertainment form of entertainment that, do things that obviously we understand we cannot do.
I don't think it's video games putting the idea in people's heads.
Yeah.
Like, if you're unstable, you're already unstable before you play that video game.
Right.
Like, I don't think someone saw, I slept with a hooker in Grand Theft Auto and then I killed her. I'm going to go do that now. Thanks, Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
Right? Like,
I
think
agree.
that's probably
I think the problem's already
in their head before
mm-hmm.
something like that happens. So I don't think video games are really an issue.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous, like, news outlets claiming that that's the issue. That's stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's really science backing that up either. Like,
right. That's what I'm saying. Maybe we need a couple more years and then people can do proper research on it.
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard of any study that does that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that does exist, but I don't think so.
I haven't researched it.
I haven't either, but I don't think that exists. As far as positives they bring, I think, a lot of kids, especially like teenagers, use video games. It always was, to me at least, kind of like an outlet. Like, it was something to do at home so that I wasn't bored, and it, I made a lot of really good friends through video games. But I'm trying to think of how to word that better. I think it's just a kind of outlet that kids can use, and that, I don't know, 'cause like, I'm trying to think of how to word it. What do you think? I'll maybe think about it while you talk.
Positives?
What positives does video games bring?
It's like any form of entertainment, right? It's something to escape from your reality and enjoy. And online communities are cool, right? You get to meet a lot of people that you wouldn't know in real life.
Sure.
I wouldn't know anybody in your stream in real life besides you. Not one person. But it's cool to like go online and come into your chat and be like, oh, hey, people that I at least somewhat know are in here.
Right, and I've met up with a decent amount of people from like the Left Eye 2 community and stuff in my life. So I've made a lot of good friends, even if I haven't met them in real life before, through gaming. And I've met a decent amount of them in real life now as well.
Right.
But I guess as far as positives they bring, you can meet people that you wouldn't have met otherwise, is Raleigh's point. I agree. It's an outlet that is not necessarily a bad thing. And, outlet and meeting people, that's, I guess, the two big ones. Something that I want to touch on this subject, Tyler bothers me. It kind of goes into the next question, too, because the next question's about porn, which I'm very against. But Tyler calls me a hypocrite in the sense that he basically says, like, how can you be against, like, porn or sexual exploitation, stuff like that? Like, how can you be against one thing but not be against, like, violence in movies or video? Like, how can you, like, So I hate watching like sex scenes in movies. I think they're most of the time completely pointless and awkward to watch. And I say most of the time I'm like, you could get the point across without having that scene. And he says, how can you be against sex in movies but not against violence in movies? Or like sex in video games but not violence in video games.
That's an interesting question.
And he says that to me a lot.
He has a point.
I think I have to choose my words.
I get your reasoning behind it because it's like something that was harmful to you in the past, like, and even like me, like I think most people, most at least guys, and I'm sure a bunch of girls our age who grew up on the internet, that like became an addiction or an issue at some point, and there's probably still is to a lot of people. So it's like something that actively harmed you. You've never dealt with specifically violent situations probably in your life. Never gotten in gunfights, so it doesn't give you flashbacks. Right. But like that's the thing, like maybe people that served in the military that have issues with PTSD would rather not have violence in movies. But you know, but like that's the thing. Like he has a point of like, yeah, if you're against something that's bad, that you feel is bad, you probably feel violence is bad at the same time. Why would you want that almost romanticized in movies? But it's not something that harmed you, right?
Right. That's a good point. Is that something that, you know, I always kind of thought of that question in the sense that like everyone kind of has their own subject they can be passionate about. And like, you know, some people are passionate about like violence in movies and violence in video games. And some people are passionate about, you know, the economy, and like some people are passionate about politics. Like everybody kind of has a different area they're passionate about. Like some people might be passionate about, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. I was going to say passionate about politics, but not about economy, but they're kind of intertwined a little bit. But anyway, my point was not everyone is, you don't have to be like super passionate about every single subject. That's a problem. Because like not everyone that's passionate about, you know, like taking care of animals is as passionate about like starving children in Africa. You know what I mean? Like there's so many problems in the world. I don't think it's fair to say you have to be equally as passionate about each one, or else your opinion isn't valid.
Just like in work, you hire a specialist to do a specialized thing. Like you can't be an expert in everything, so you can't. Not to say that you can't care about everything. But
right. Yeah, and I'm
pick something specific, and like that's your issue. That's what you deal with. That's what you're passionate about.
And I mean that's just like. And I'm not saying there's no problem with violence in movies. Like I'd be open to an argument about it. But I guess kind of going back to what you said, like, big reason why I'm as passionate about, like, sex in movies and stuff like that is because of the direct effect it had on my life and stuff like that. So, you know, that's a reason I'm passionate about that. But as far as the reason why am I not as passionate about both, I just don't think it's logical to make the argument that, well, you have to be passionate about both or else I'm not going to listen to what you say about one thing. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that's fair to say.
Why not?
It is semi-hypocritical, isn't it?
I get the argument both ways, but I think it's not fair to say, well, you have to like care about both or else your opinion on one is invalid.
Sure. I agree.
What's different about what I just said there and what I said before?
Well,
I thought I said the same thing.
No. Well, it's like people claiming you're a hypocrite, that you can't really disagree with that, right? Like, being hypocritical is fine, to be honest. Everybody's hypocritical at some point. I don't know, maybe I'm not making sense.
I don't know. I think we're on the same train.
Maybe not.
I'm saying that I'm not saying that sex is the only problem and violence isn't a problem. I'm not saying that, and I've never said that. But what I am saying is I'm not as passionate about violence in video games or in movies as I am about like sex in movies.
Right.
And he's saying that's a problem because you should care about both. And I'm saying I don't necessarily not care about both. I'm just more passionate about one.
Sure.
And he's saying, well, your opinion on that one is pretty much invalid or less valuable because you don't care as much about the other one. And I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you are.
I'm saying that you don't have to be as passionate about both.
I get his point, but I don't necessarily.
I get his
necessarily
point
agree
too.
with it,
Yeah.
right?
That was my point with, like, you can be super against like the killing of animals, but you're not always as passionate about, starving children in Africa.
Sure.
Like, there's tons of problems,
Or just like
but you don't have to be equally as
you're a
passionate about
veterinarian, so
everyone.
you save pets for a living, but you still eat meat, right? Like, how is, you know what I mean? That
No.
makes sense. It's a good analogy. Don't look at me like that.
Can you explain it better?
What? Well, you save animals for a living, and
Yeah.
then people would argue, like, well, you shouldn't eat meat because that's killing animals, and that's a terrible thing to do. That doesn't necessarily disagree with your opinion of, like, all right, well, it's still a form of subsistence, so eating meat's fine, even though I save animals for a living.
How does that relate to what?
That's the exact same analogy that you just made before.
That's like saying if I watched porn but it was against sex in movies, and I'd be okay with porn but not sex in movies.
No, it's not.
That's the way I just took that.
You took it wrong.
I'm not following you is what I'm saying.
All right, then I'm not going to explain it. I don't know what else to add to that.
My final point,
I think it was a good analogy.
just to reiterate, is I don't think it's fair to say you have to be as equally passionate about every problem for your opinion on a problem to be valid.
Sure.
Like, everyone's going to be passionate about different stuff. So the next question, you don't have to talk in depth about this if you don't want to, is what is your experience with porn addiction like now at this time? Do you still watch/enjoy it? So I've been very open on my stream about my history, I guess, with porn. I started watching porn / was like exposed to it, I guess, in like 8th grade. I still remember it. It was like the stupidest thing ever. Children are really retarded. And sorry, I don't like using that word.
I don't like that word at all.
Sorry. Children are really stupid.
Okay.
And I still remember it was one of my friends. I was really only close to like one friend in middle school. And they were picking on him. And this was in 8th grade, I remember. It was like recess. And they were picking on him because they said he probably doesn't even masturbate, or he probably doesn't even look at porn and
It's a weird
stuff.
thing to argue.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. It's really stupid, and kids are stupid. So I didn't even know what it was at that point. I don't think, or I didn't really think about it much if I did. But that's when I went home and I started looking at it, and I pretty much never stopped. All throughout high school was pretty terrible. College, early years were pretty terrible. It wasn't until like my 3rd year of college, pretty much my first semester at Grand Valley, that I started kind of turning around in a sense. So, that's when I became Christian, and ever since then, it's been kind of a progression of getting better. It's still something I struggle with in terms of what is my experience with it at this time. It's still something that bothers me a lot, and still is crosses my mind more times than I would like it to. I still, I would say, complete transparency, I still look at it like once every few weeks, which I'm not happy about. And that's, progressing from literally multiple times a day to once every day, once every few days. Like, it's progressively gotten less and less, and that's just where we're at now. And so I'm hoping to, obviously to keep that trend going. But in terms of, do I still like it / enjoy it? I don't enjoy it. I freaking hate it. But the thing that a lot of people don't know, and the thing that, like, to me, part of getting better at it was understanding what was happening, I guess, when you're doing it. So when you watch porn, or just when you have sex in general, when you finish, 2 things happen in your brain. It releases 2 things. It releases dopamine, and it releases, I think it's called oxytocin or oxycontin. Oxytocin, I'm pretty sure.
Oxycontin's a drug.
Right. So it's oxytocin, I'm pretty sure. It's oxy something. Basically, dopamine is like the rewards drug. It basically gets released when you do stuff that your body thinks is good. And the other one is like a bonding drug. It says like, hey, it's like, it gets released, like, for example, when you hold hands with somebody that you're close with. And it kind of like is, bonds you to what you just did, or what, made that good feeling happen. So when you watch porn, when you finish, dopamine gets released. And a big reason it becomes more and more of an issue is because if you do it a lot, you start to fry those like sensors, I guess, in your brain, and it starts like needing it more and more, and it starts like kind of becoming numb to it. Like the same amount of dopamine is no longer good. And that's why you run into things where you start watching it more and more and start watching like harder and harder stuff, basically. So it's really hard to like reverse that cycle, and obviously it can be done, but it's really difficult, and that's why that, along with getting released the bonding chemical in the brain, it's hard to tear that bond apart, I guess.
Right.
So that's why it's hard, like, because I didn't understand at first why I couldn't just stop watching it. So it was important to me, or interesting, I guess, to me, to learn somewhat of the science behind it, as to like, okay, that's why biologically I'm having a hard time. So it is difficult, but it's been a process, and that's part of the reason. Like I really don't like a big problem that I had with porn growing up was throughout high school, especially when it was like at its worst. I went to an all guys high school, which didn't help, but literally like I didn't understand that women were like people as well. Like I literally saw women as objects. Like every time I saw a woman outside of porn, like I literally just looked like straight at their breasts pretty much. Like I literally was just like judging them immediately. And that is disgusting, and I hate that. And so like to say that porn is harmless is just like mind blowing to me almost, because of the effects that it had growing up on me. And
I think it's hard to claim that porn is harmless now. There's like a lot of real scientific studies coming out like, all right, this might not be the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that's pretty new. Like, before you'd have to go and buy like a Playboy, right?
Uh-huh.
And it would be like you'd have to hide it, and it would be not easy to get a hold of, and you wouldn't be able to get a hold of like insane amounts at any given time.
Right.
I think they said like, I thought I heard like 25% of the internet is porn.
Yeah, it's some high percentage.
It's just like ridiculous the amount of stuff that you have access to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the more and more studies that come out of like we're altering the chemistry of our brain just from looking at porn and masturbating all the time is like scary.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's certainly something that I have dealt with and continue to. Just like any addiction, like you take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Being a scientific guy, right? I have an engineering minor in computer science. So I took a million science classes and did a lot of
I took about 0 science classes as my film degree.
Right. So
0 math, 0 science. I'm really
I don't know, but I think it's hard to argue with science, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
I mean,
people that are arguing that it's not harmful
right,
aren't necessarily reading every article.
Right.
Whether you take some at face value and some not.
Sure.
I'm sure there's articles that say that's completely fine.
There are, yeah.
But there are a lot that say that it's not. So I think it's something that you can't just say like, oh, I know what's happening. So you need to do research yourself before you just go, oh, it's fine.
Right. And I'm not saying that everyone should be as like passionate about it or care as much about it or have as big of a problem with it as I do, but I'm saying if you are at the point where I don't think anyone who has looked at, like, let's say you've read every study, I don't think you can say that, oh, there's no problem with it whatsoever.
Right.
And I think the people that say that there's no problem with it whatsoever they haven't looked it up. Right. I don't think they've cared to look it up, which, I mean, is their prerogative. It's whatever.
I'd agree.
But another thing, too, is that I found interesting is the link it has to, like, the sex trafficking industry. And that's something that I don't know, like, a ton of numbers on, but I've read enough about it to know that it exists. And a lot of, like, the amateur porn, I guess, on the internet, you don't know whether or not that is necessarily consensual.
Yeah, that's not anything I really know about.
Yeah.
But
it isn't.
I've heard of, like...
I've read a few articles on it.
Apparently,
Grand
Rapids is, like, a really bad city for sex
really?
trafficking. That's what I've read. Or I, like, read a couple articles.
Right, because I mean...
Which is kind of scary because that's where I live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something I actually
Right, you don't think
about.
of sex trafficking happening in front of you.
Like, actual slavery, basically.
Right.
Because I mean, something that I think happens in the Bible Belt of West Michigan.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's something I think a lot of I mean, you think about it, it makes sense. Like the girls in sex trafficking don't have a choice whether or not that is recorded or not. Like
Right.
it makes sense. And the study, like there have been studies on it, and like girls that have come out of it and said, yeah, that happened and stuff like that. So anyway, moving on from there. How long have we been going? Can you see?
Almost an hour.
Okay. There's 2 more questions. There are many conspiracies surrounding this, but as an American, how would you feel if you found
I
out
forgot about this.
if you found out 9/11 was an inside job? I don't know why I laughed at that.
I don't see why anyone thinks that. Like, what is the U.S. government gaining?
There was
from that?
actually one.
Go
There
ahead.
was one time. This was a long time ago. I think I was in either early. No, I wasn't. I had to have been in middle school still, because it happened when I was in 4th grade. 9/11 did. I was in 4th grade in 2001, and my brother showed me, like, there's a bunch of documentaries basically saying how it was an inside job.
Yeah.
My brother showed me one, and I don't really remember much of it, but they made like points, but it sounded really far fetched, like a lot of the points they were making.
I just don't get what George Bush would gain from
Exactly.
killing people. Like, I don't get that argument.
Well, it helped his popularity numbers, that's for sure. He went from like 40% approval rate to like 90.
So you think he's gonna kill like thousands
Yeah, no,
of
I'm
people
not-
just to get better
I'm not
popularity?
arguing for it. I really don't think it's an inside job, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people. I think the people that think it's an inside job
People
are the
like,
same people.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams, dude.
I think that was actually part of the point in the video. I
Well,
think.
yeah,
But I think a
large
lot of the
impacts
people
can hurt steel beams.
I think a lot of people don't understand how terrible radical like Islam is. Like how terrible terrorists are.
Any type of radical.
Sure.
anything.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, they're who is responsible for
Right.
that. I'm saying the people who are responsible for that, and like the people like in ISIS and stuff.
Yeah, they're
People don't
bad
understand
dudes.
how terrible it is, and that's why I don't like joking about like ISIS and stuff, because it's not a joke. Like that stuff is literally people being like murdered for being Christian in the
Yep.
Middle East, not even for being like just for not being Muslim.
Yep.
Like it literally is
Or,
terrible.
like women for exposing their hair just get
Right.
murdered.
Like it is awful, and I think the same people that think it's conspiracy theory don't understand how terrible that kind of stuff is. That's my opinion. That's not proven by any fact. I just feel like that is the only way you could believe that, is to not understand how much these people hate America.
I think it's I don't know. It's not anything that I'm even thinking about.
Yeah, it doesn't
I-
cross my mind much.
no.
That's just kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, because I heard this week like a 911 call from a flight attendant on one of the flights that went into the Twin Towers.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 8 minutes of the 20-minute phone call of like her talking to other people and talking to 911 thing, and I was like, that was awful. Trying to listen to them, like, dudes got stabbed and they threw tear gas into the plane, and then they couldn't talk to the cockpit. So like, I don't know. I couldn't see
Did
why.
she just call 911 and leave it on?
Yeah, they were on the
Like
phone.
she just
for,
like put it? Was she
they were on the
actually
phone
on the
for, like, 20
phone, or did
minutes,
she
yeah.
just like have it?
She
in
was
her
on
pocket?
the phone. They were like talking to her.
Huh.
So it was like someone posted like 8 minutes of the 20-minute conversation on Reddit, and I like listened to it. It was really
Gosh.
terrible.
There's a podcast I listened to, and he I went back and watched one of his older episodes, and he watched ISIS released like a recruitment video basically in English,
Jeez.
and he like broke it down. Like he was like, this is where they're getting this stat, and this is why it's wrong. And like, because they used stats that were incorrect in the video, obviously. But like listening, I couldn't see the podcast. He does record it when he does it, but I couldn't see. I was just listening to it, and like it like literally made me angry to like the core to hear some of this video. Like it was disgusting, and like the fact that this exists in the world is troubling a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it does not sit well. Like it sucks. And yeah, there's some bad stuff out there. So I don't think 9/11 is an inside job. But if you found out it was, how would you feel about it? I think is the point of the question.
I don't know, dude. How do you feel?
I already don't really trust the government. I think the government's really stupid and they're bad at their job,
Well,
and we shouldn't give them a
like,
ton of power. So it doesn't necessarily. I already think most of the government is like greedy pigs who only care about themselves.
Well, we were old enough that I
That doesn't change my
remember
opinion.
what I was doing that day.
Yeah, I do.
And my uncle came out of the subway like a half an hour after the Twin Tower hit, and he was gonna go into the World Trade Center.
Really?
So he like came up from the subway, and there were like just papers and people crying and ash floating around.
So he was below ground when it happened?
No, I don't think he was in the area, but he was like gonna go to the World Trade Center.
Oh.
So
Wait,
like,
so
he was
he-
on his
he-
way there that day.
He was on his way there when it happened, though.
I guess
Is
so.
that what you're
Yeah.
saying? And they didn't know what was happening, like in the subway below ground?
I'm not sure if I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it.
I'd be interested to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was in 4th grade, and I went to a Catholic grade school, and we had Mass every Friday. And
Mhm.
this wasn't a Friday. I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I was just in class, and one of the teachers came in and talked to our teacher, and our teacher was just like, she was like, oh, my God. Like, she was literally, I think she was speechless. Like, she literally gasped and then, like, didn't say anything and, like, had her hand on, like, her chest.
Right.
And was just like in shock basically. And they pulled all the kids into the church and did like an emergency mass basically,
Jeez.
just to like pray for it.
We weren't allowed to go to recess that day, and I remember being
Really?
pissed that we couldn't go out to recess. And a bunch of kids got pulled out of school, and I always wondered why.
Really?
My parents didn't, but they didn't tell us at school because I went to a public school, and they're not going to go to a bunch of 4th graders and be like,
Yeah, I mean, no
"Hey,
one.
terrorists are hurting the U.S." Right?
Right.
So my parents told me later when I got home.
They may have told us what happened. I think they did, but I mean, I was in 4th grade.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
probably
understand
wouldn't
what
have
was
comprehended
happening.
it very
Yeah.
well.
I didn't. I mean,
I
it
remember
was kindergarten through 8th grade, so no one there was really comprehending what
Right.
was happening besides the teachers.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I found out it was an inside job, I would hate our government even more than I already dislike it. And I shouldn't say that I mean, I do dislike it, but I'm not saying it's unnecessary. It is necessary. But anyway, I don't know how it would affect my day-to-day life. I already don't think the government's great at their job. I think they're even more corrupt than I already think they are. Okay, this one's kind of funky. And I think it's trying to make a point with it. So the question is, if a man randomly approached you on the street and told you that he's God, and if you don't believe him, you're going to hell for an eternity, would you believe him? I feel like when I read that, I was thinking of like, is he trying to say that's what Jesus did? Because Jesus says, no one comes to the Father except through me, and basically I'm God.
Right.
But he didn't really walk up to people on the street and just say that.
No.
Like, he didn't walk up to me like, hey, am I God? Do you believe I'm God? And they're like, no. They're like, all right, you're going to hell. So yeah, that's not how it works.
It's a weird question.
It is kind of a funky question. So my answer is obviously no. Like, this random dude walked up to me. Obviously, you're not going to believe him.
I think it depends, right?
On
I
what?
mean, well, if it is actually God, there'd be something about it, right?
Right. I'm saying, like, just at face value, if you just walked up to me like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm
if
God,
some
I'd be
dude,
like,
like,
no,
was
you're not.
passing him down the street, oh, I'm God. Just,
Right.
keeps
Be like,
walking.
well, no, you're
It's
not.
like, no, probably not.
I was thinking, like, he walks up to you, basically stands in front of you like, hey, I'm God. Do you believe? If you don't believe me, you're going to hell. Do you believe me? And I'd be like, no. And then he'd be like, all right, you're going to hell, bye, and then leave. That's how I envision
Yeah, I don't
the
think that's
interaction.
how any conversations with Jesus went, though.
It's that's my point. Is obviously, and I mean, there were people that didn't believe obviously Jesus was God, and then
Sure.
after he died, and obviously what happened was enough proof. But there's things in like scripture that point to that being
Well, think
real,
about it, like-
not along with all the miracles he did and like
Yeah.
all of the things he said and stuff like that. That combined with like the miracles combined with scripture is enough. Obviously, I have my own reasons for being Christian that are kind of outside of those, but that is enough for me to be like, yeah, he's God. If this guy walked up to me and was like, did a miracle or something, maybe I would consider it more, but I wouldn't be like converted on the
I don't
spot.
know if you could even
And I
say,
wouldn't really
like,
believe it either because I would just think it's some stupid magic trick or something, like there'd have to be more reasons other than him just saying I'm God. And I think Jesus had enough reasons other than just saying he was God to be God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
That's
don't
my
even know
point.
how to answer that question, dude.
Yeah, that's the
Like,
point I'm making. It
Faith
is,
is way more complex than just
oh, I agree.
taking something at face value.
Yeah.
Just like if I told you some ridiculous fact, you don't necessarily just take that at face value.
If that was a fact, maybe.
Well, if I just tell you some random statement
Statistic
and tell you
or
that
something?
it's fact, it doesn't necessarily mean it's fact.
Like I'm global elite. on my
worth
Smurf. I'm
$5
I'm
million.
globally on my Smurf that you've never seen before.
Right.
Don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
I spin Bob, but I'm just kidding. But I actually never have hacked in my life. I'm pretty proud of that.
Neither have I.
Just like Andy from Crew, and
Really?
he said he played Counter-Strike before, and I was like, oh, really? That's cool. Like, I didn't know you played Counter-Strike. And he's like, yeah. And then I eventually got bored, and I found this thing where I could basically see him through walls, and it would just lock onto their head.
Oh my gosh, dude.
It was like, yeah, it would just like lock onto their head, and it was like way easier. I was like,
So much less respect.
I know. I was like, I thought you were like, we were going to bond over this thing. Like, oh, you play Counter-Strike. I played Counter-Strike too. That's cool. I didn't know that about you. But no, you're just a fudging hacker. Fudging.
That's awesome.
I was like, I can't believe you just said that to me. That wasn't what I said, but that's what I was thinking.
Did you call him out?
I was
I
like,
would've called him
that's
out.
cheating. I literally, yeah, I did too. I was like, you're a hacker then. And he was like, hey, I guess. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like a gamer, quote unquote.
I could hear him doing his laugh and doing
exactly,
that too. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
But yeah, I was basically, so you're a hacker then. That's not cool at all. But yeah.
Ugh.
I guess we answered that last one more or less enough.
I can't give you a straight answer on that.
My answer is objectively no to the question itself. I think, to me, the reason for believing in Jesus is a lot more than just him saying that he was God. I think it goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
Period.
I agree with that.
Well, that's all the questions that I have on here marked for us. The rest I'm saving for the other episode we'll be recording today. So that's that. Thanks for joining us for another episode of TBT2G. And I'll see you guys in the stream. I never know how to end these things.
Yeah.
Do you have any wise words to end it with?
I don't. I'm not that wise.
Dude, you're an engineering major or
How does
whatever.
that make me wise?
Because you're
Wisdom's different
smart.
than knowledge.
Your IQ's probably
Wisdom's
off the
different
charts.
than knowledge. That's what
How
I'm ending
so?
on. Wisdom's different than knowledge.
How is it different than knowledge?
What do you mean, how's it different?
I want to know your
Wisdom
definitions
is
of both.
understanding. Knowledge is just knowing.
I was always kind of like, I'm not disagreeing with you that it's different from knowledge. I just never really had a definition like that of it. So that's interesting. Anyway, thank you for listening, and listen to the rest of them if you haven't listened to the rest of the episodes. That's
Bye.
it. See you on the stream. Bye, guys.